episode of the Brickyard podcast. We are coming to you live on a Monday night. It is June 15th at 10:45 Eastern Time, and we are coming to you after we have finally crowned an NBA champion. We had one of the greatest moments in sports history happen this weekend, and we are also here to continue our series where we are previewing every single NFL division, where we're going to go through today the AFC East and pick each team's schedule and give you our prediction for how we see it playing out next year, picking every single game. But we had a hell of a NBA playoffs. We had the most game sevens. We had a tie for the most game sevens in NBA history. Some blown 3-1 leads in the first round and some pretty competitive basketball. Taking a step back and taking a look at it, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, damn, how crazy was it that we had the Hornets and Miami Heat game, and that was like all the way back in April. And it feels like that game was so long ago, where we had the Hornets ridiculous game where they had in the play-in tournament where they beat the Miami Heat, and that was absolutely ridiculous. And that was just to start the playoffs, and now we're all the way in June. And it's like, wow, 3 months just went by like that.
Yeah, the culmination of the playoffs, when you finally get to the NBA Finals, after all the shit they've been through for the last 7 or 8 weeks, now we finally have the champion. And I honestly, just before we talk about the NBA Finals, I would say each playoff round, we had a lot of success. I mean, we had the Magic blow a 3-1 lead, Pistons carried through, Celtics blow a huge lead, the Knicks went through six, Raptors and Cavs went 7 games. Other side, we had a battle between the Nuggets and Timberwolves that was fun to watch. Lakers, really the round one was great. Round two, we had some game sevens as well. Conference finals, we had Thunder and Spurs, which was fun to watch. And then the NBA Finals, which is the closest 5 game series I feel like I've ever seen of any NBA Finals.
Yeah, this is the first time in NBA history where a team led for 72% of the series and held a double digit lead in every single game, only to lose 4-1. So it's the first time any team in NBA history has done that. And I watched this finals, especially watching game five, surrounded by a bunch of Spurs fans. I was just thinking to myself, this has to be the most painful loss in finals history, and I kept digging trying to find another finals loss that could be worse than this, but for a team that just was right there at the end of every single game, with maybe the exception of game one, even that game they still had a double digit lead. Like, can you think of a more painful NBA Finals? Like, this was just excruciating to watch, especially Game Five. You knew the Knicks were gonna come back and win.
Yeah, by game five, you knew for sure. Sure. Excuse me. The most painful one was the 29-point lead blown, because that's the difference between it being a 2-2 series and it being a series where the Knicks were up 3-1. That was the most painful one. But every game, I mean, they were up by 16 in one game, 13 in another, 12 in another. And then they were up again in this game. You thought that they were in the driver's seat, but then yet again in the fourth quarter, they collapse. And it's another game for the Knicks to come back and win. Jalen Brunson had a huge game in game 5, 45 to close it out, which I think he joins, if I'm not mistaken, LeBron, Paul Pierce, and I want to say Michael Jordan as far as closeout games with 40 points or more.
Yeah,
At least just off my
and
head.
yeah, and he draws like he joins a historic group there, and he was kind of the wall to wall answer, where he had a tough first few games, but even when he was struggling, he would still hit some of these ridiculous and one shots where as soon as he felt the contact, when he would kind of go for a foul bait and just throw it up, he was making some pretty ridiculous circus shots. So just him, and then even in game 5, the most frustrating point for the Spurs was you had Carl Anthony Towns essentially benched for the majority of the third quarter because he picked up his fourth foul in the first minute, and then you didn't see him until midway through the fourth quarter, and you couldn't take advantage of that. And this was a low scoring game in game 5 as well, where the Spurs were just at home and just couldn't figure out anything at the end of it. Like, you think you would have figured out something. I thought the series could get extended just because the Spurs were losing in such a horrible way, but it just kept continuing where game 1, Spurs led by 14 points in the second half, and the Knicks finished on an 11-0 run in the final 2 minutes. 11-0 run. Game 2, the Spurs led by 12. They were down 1 with 11 seconds left, and then that's when Victor Wembanyama decided to throw it at Stephon Castle's back, and then he also missed the jumper that could have given the Spurs the lead at the end of the game as well. And then the Spurs won in game 3, but they also nearly blew a lead again. So even the game that the San Antonio Spurs won, you still barely win that game. It takes a De'Aaron Fox shot at the end of it to ice it. That's only a 4-point win, though. And then game 4, you blow the largest lead in finals history with a 29-point lead. You literally break the NBA record for three-pointers made with 14 three-pointers made in the first half, and you still blow that lead. I believe Victor Wembanyama went 9 for 10 down the stretch in game 4, and then he only shot 7 of 19, but missing 9 of 10 shots, and then he also missed 2 critical free throws at the end of that game as well, with 1:47 left, while the Knicks were up 1, and then they win on a tip-in from OG Anunoby, where no one boxed him out. You didn't have anyone guarding him on the inbound ball, but literally all you need to do is get a body on him, and you win that game. That's just another mental breakdown, but ridiculous tip-in by OG with how far he tipped it in from. And then game 5, the Spurs led by 16 in the first half, and Dylan Harper, again, he missed 2 late free throws, and if he made those 2 free throws, then you easily could have won that game at the end of the stretch there. But I think it was by the time game 5 came around, like, this has to be the most painful finals loss in NBA history, and this is one of those situations where, do you think this is a finals loss that can fuel the Spurs, or do you think this is a type of loss that's just going to break a young team with how catastrophically horrible it was?
I don't know. There's a lot of questions that come from this. Do they have the right coach? I think they probably do. Is De'Aaron Fox the point guard of their future for him? He had a really bad finals. That's a talking point around the NBA at this point. I do think that they have enough fuel in the tank that they'll be back next year with the vengeance, and maybe now that they have more playoff experience. We always worried about their playoff experience going into the playoffs. Now they've had it. They've gone through all 4 legs of the postseason, but it really caught up to them when they face off against the Knicks, who have a young core. Jalen Brunson has had multiple playoff runs with them now. They've made it to the semifinals with them. They've had multiple runs that have fallen short, and I feel like that's what kind of fueled this Knicks team in order to make it and have the run that they had in the Eastern and NBA Finals ultimately. So I think this is character building. I think the Spurs will definitely be back. It's just who's going to be there alongside Wembanyama is the question.
Yeah, could definitely be a different cast. And then for the Knicks, I do think this is definitely an impressive finals run. And for them, I think it was just the overall size of OG Anunoby, and he was the real player who threw a wrench into this series. But even at the end of game 5, the most frustrating part at the end of it was the Knicks miss a free throw, and the Spurs should be getting the ball back with the chance to win it, but Wemby can't box out Mitchell Robinson on the free throw line. So you have to ask yourself, what is the point of him being 8 feet tall if he can't even box people out and then secure a key rebound at the end of the game? And the Knicks were also in the bonus, so when Mitchell Robinson got the rebound, the Spurs should have fouled him immediately. And then instead of him being right next to Wembanyama, where he was pushing him under the basket and getting offensive rebounds at the free throw line, then you would have had Mitchell Robinson essentially at the free throw line where he hadn't played well. And then the Knicks also missed clutch free throws at the end of game 5, where you just have so many of these moments where you're like, come on, are you kidding me? And they're a young team, but they also just went 7 games with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think the Oklahoma City Thunder would have at least put up a better fight than this San Antonio Spurs team just by experience. I don't think they quite would have had the meltdowns. I think we would have seen a more blowouts in this series where each team is trading blows here, and the Thunder have a little bit more size to handle the Knicks. But this one, it's just when Wemby's not on the floor, Luke Cornett gets pushed around. They shoot 58% when they're shooting under 40% when Wembanyama's on the floor. And then we just don't have anyone who can get a bucket at the end of the game, including the guy who's 8 feet tall, because he doesn't have a go-to move yet. It's like he struggled getting to the basket in this series. So you have to just credit the Knicks defense where they just had too much size. And you had someone like Jose Alvarado pushing him around too. You're getting like out-muscled by a 4-foot midget.
Not only that, but I also feel like Wemby, he would be really hot in quarters 1 and 3 when he had some rest. But as soon as the second quarter and fourth quarter kicked in, the stats are pretty jarring, especially the fourth quarter. Wasn't showing up when it mattered. And then there was plenty of people that struggled. Game 5, Stephen Castle doesn't have a great game. De'Aaron Fox shoots 3 of 15. So part of it's also on a supporting cast. But when Wemby's getting gassed and, like you mentioned, doesn't have a go-to move, you see a little bit of weakness in his game so far. He is young. Obviously, he can work those out. But those are big things that he needs to work on, especially if he's going to be fighting against the Thunder. The Timberwolves are still going to be there. They're in the sweepstakes for Giannis. You still have a Lakers team that always seems to be in the mix for a big star. So there's plenty of teams. And then Jokic, he's still alive and well. So, I mean, you have other teams in the Western Conference that are going to be coming at your tail again. So do I think they'll be back in the finals? Yes. But is it going to be next year? I got to see what they do this offseason.
Yeah. And for me, the remedy for the Spurs is pretty easy. You go out there and you get Aaron Gordon and Drew Holiday. That fixes this team.
Yeah.
You need a big, athletic power forward outside of Wemby who's going to be someone who can go out there, rebound aggressively, still space the floor, but bring some toughness, where the Spurs have big guards right now. I think Stephon Castle will definitely put on some muscle, but I think you can maybe part ways with someone like Devin Vassell. Maybe Denver wants a shooter. You can package Vassell and maybe Fox if they're looking to move on from Murray to Denver for someone like Aaron Gordon, maybe a 3-team deal. And then you also get Drew Holiday, who will be someone who can help settle this team down, be a closer for this team. And then you keep Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle together. But, I mean, Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle are also 2 ball handlers where they may run into the same issue with Tatum and Brown, where they're kind of butting heads a little bit. So I do think at some point they might have to choose between one of the 3. They're not going to get rid of Wemby, but between Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, especially with the NBA cap.
Yeah, and I think right now I would lean keeping Dylan Harper ideally. And then I really like that trade that you just proposed where it's trading De'Aaron Fox and I think you said Stephen Castle for Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. Yeah, Devin Vassell. Yeah, Vassell and De'Aaron Fox, because Jamal Murray is kind of like an anti-De'Aaron Fox. In the postseason, he shows up and he essentially elevates his game in the postseason. And as long as he's healthy, I think his pairing with Wemby would be electric, to be honest.
Yeah, him and Wemby would be good together, but they need something like bringing in Drew Holiday, someone like Aaron Gordon, just getting some toughness at the power forward position, because Luke Cornett comes in, and it wasn't a problem in the regular season. I think it was just with how Wemby was playing the Knicks, and the Knicks just had their moment where they pretty much set a record in every round that they were in. Jalen Brunson averaged 11.2 points in the fourth quarter, so he surpassed Giannis, who averaged 9.3 in 2021 for the highest mark in finals history for points in the fourth quarter. and then he became the first player to record 30-plus points and 7 assists in each of the first 4 playoff games in a playoff run.
Sorry, I have the allergies. But yes, that's incredible.
Yeah. Allergies bad in Phoenix, too.
Yeah, they're fucking terrible.
But
But
yeah, the Knicks also outscored their opponents by average of 14 points during their entire playoff run, which was the best point differential in NBA history. And then in New York only allowed 92 points per 100 possessions in the clutch, which is within the last 5 minutes. And then the 2026 finals also marked the 8th consecutive year with a unique championship, which is the longest such stretch in NBA history if you don't count the cocaine era, which was like the late 60s, 70s, into the 80s. Or that's kind of where we kind of delete most of the 70s in NBA history, where it's like, you could skip it. You can skip from
yeah,
Bill Russell to the 80s.
yeah, there's like certain moments in each sport that you can kind of erase. For baseball, you can eliminate the dead ball era when fucking shoeless Joe Jackson was the star there. You can eliminate any leather helmet NFL era ever, so that eliminates up until the 70s. And then in the NBA, you can probably eliminate the cocaine era, and maybe Wes Unsed's upset, but the rest of the NBA is doing just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think for the NBA, like, they were pretty much dead until Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came around, because that is really what revived the NBA. And then Michael Jordan took it and then ran with it, and then he transformed it. And I think the biggest thing people are getting to is that period of time in the NBA where Michael Jordan wins 3 in a row, essentially takes a year off, comes back when baseball goes on strike, wins. He plays about 15 games, loses to the Magic, but then he goes on to win 3 straight finals again. Where now we're seeing all these teams only win 1 champion in a row, or if they do win, they have to have such a overwhelming amount of talent against you, where I think people are starting to realize how hard it is to essentially win 6 rings in a row with only 1 gap year for Michael Jordan. It's like, now starting to look back at it, like LeBron couldn't do it with Miami when you could argue he had better teams, especially versus Dallas. The Heat were the better team against the Spurs the last year. Tim Duncan was 39, I believe, in that NBA Finals. So, like, you also should have been the better team in that series as well.
Yeah. I can say, I mean, if we want to talk about praise, I mean, he did make it to 8 straight finals. So that's impressive, but he did have to leave to do that. Other champions, the Spurs, the Spurs never won back-to-back finals, I think. I think they won like 99, 03, 07, and then there's another one I'm missing in there. But the Spurs were pretty consistent, being kind of the every other year type of team. And then the Lakers of the 2000s with Kobe and Shaq. Those are kind of the last true dynasties. And then obviously the Warriors with Kevin Durant in there. But I think the days of us seeing back-to-back champions, I don't know if this Knicks team is going to be able to do it again, especially with the Celtics. They might be making a move for Giannis. The Pacers will be back with Halliburton. And this team is also very expensive as well, so I just don't know if this Knicks team is going to rebound. But as far as the run that they had, this Knicks team, we are going to talk about this as one of the better championship teams probably in NBA history, just with how dominant they were throughout the entire stretch.
Yeah, I just don't think they played as many great teams going through the Eastern Conference, and the fact that the series was so close, they were dominant in the clutch, but they didn't necessarily dominate the Spurs, where the Spurs still led for 72% of the series. So it's still impressive with what they did, but this is also an unprecedented meltdown from the San Antonio Spurs, where you don't have the Indiana Pacers there this year, which has given the Knicks probably the most trouble. They beat the Knicks in the conference championship last year, Halliburton having his ridiculous shot, and then the Celtics are going through rebuild. So it's definitely an impressive championship, but I think as far as the net rating, it's definitely impressive, but I don't necessarily know how well they would just stack up against other NBA champions.
Yeah, I think what this Knicks team's going to be remembered for is all of their comebacks against the Spurs. They'll remember fondly how they just completely manhandled the Sixers and honestly the Cavaliers for a good portion of it. It's funny to me that the team that gave them the most trouble series-wise was technically the Hawks, because the Hawks got 2 games on them, and the rest of the entire NBA playoffs got one, and it was a Wembanyama nearly blown comeback that they ended up just squeaking out. But otherwise, they would have probably been swept by by the Knicks otherwise.
Yeah, and yeah, I think a lot of people's takeaway was how good CJ McCollum was versus the San Antonio Spurs, where he has 2 clutch games where they pushed them 6 games, and now people are looking back at that Hawks team thinking that if they had made it out of that Knicks series, the Hawks potentially would have been the NBA champions. Like,
Yeah,
they probably could have beat every other team in the Eastern Conference. Definitely would have beat Cleveland. Cleveland already, you know, handled their business with Detroit. So like Detroit never really stood a chance there, and then the Raptors had a tough series against the Cavaliers. So when you think about it, we could have genuinely had Spurs and Hawks if the Knicks lost, and that would have been the alternative.
yeah. I think the Spurs would have taken care of the Hawks in that scenario. But do you think the Hawks would have beaten the Sixers or Cavs though?
Easy. Oh yeah. If they beat this Knicks team, they definitely would have beat either of those.
Yeah,
Definitely the Cavaliers.
Cavaliers, yes. Sixers, we'll see. I guess we'll never know. But this Knicks team, I mean, I think just the way this roster was constructed, I mean, you go all in on Anunoby, you go all in on Mikal Bridges, you sign Jalen Brunson in 2022, trade for Karl Anthony Towns, you acquire Josh Hart. So all these different moves, the way that they constructed this team, I think is also going to be one that people are going to steal from. Typically, when there's a championship, teams are bound to follow that recipe of how they constructed that team. Do you see anybody kind of making kind of the maneuvers that the Knicks had made to get to this championship?
Yeah, I could see definitely the Pacers starting to give away, like giving up like a ton of picks for a player where you scratch your head at it. Maybe they give up like 3 first-round picks for someone like Aaron Gordon, or they go after some top quality 3 and D role players. A team like them could definitely go out there and do it. Toronto is a team that could always be aggressive here. So I think those would be 2 teams. Maybe the Hornets are going to be a team that has to do some building as well and really figure out which players on their team are there for the long haul, especially with LaMelo Ball. But I do think the takeaway is also how underrated OG Anunoby is, because he has now won 2 championships. Him and Alex Caruso are one of the only players to go out there and do that. But OG Anunoby pretty much capped off the largest comeback in NBA history, and that wasn't possible without him, because he had the best game of his NBA playoff career against the San Antonio Spurs when the Spurs broke the record in the first half for most three-pointers made, and then they had the largest comeback in history specifically to him, and then it was just his defense and him crashing the offensive glass, and that tip-in really did summarize the series, where he just tips it in because he's been dominating the offensive glass. And I thought if Brunson didn't have that 45-point game and OG didn't have such a quiet game in game 5, then he would have been up there for finals MVP for me. But Brunson, he goes out there and has 45 points in a game where they score 94. It's close to half the points.
He had basically half all of their points. Has a huge game, makes huge shots in there. I agree. I was actually wondering that when they were doing just the trophy ceremony, because throughout this entire series, OG Anunoby, I mean, he had 33 in Game 4. He had another big game in Game 3 where he had 28. So he was kind of the de facto scorer outside of Jalen Brunson, who they were double teaming. So those 2 games alone, and then obviously that big moment in Game 4, I thought he had a chance to win it. But when you saw Jalen Brunson have that 45-point game, we knew that he was going to be Finals MVP. And now at this point, New York will build a statue for Jalen Brunson, no doubt about it.
In that too, and I think the interesting thing with this team is they won in spite of Karl Anthony Towns not playing well and in spite of not really having a bench. They had Alvarado come in and he was physical. Landry Shamet would hit a back-breaking three here and there, but it's just interesting how close the series was. But the Knicks were winning in spite of Karl Anthony Towns not being on the floor, in spite of having a big man on the floor that condenses it, but at the same time, he also can't shoot free throws. So we saw a hack-a-shack, and we genuinely saw someone like a DeAndre Jordan on the floor just because he's a big physical player, and he made an impact in the NBA Finals. So I did think that was also interesting because before that we had the Thunder do that also with Hartenstein as a center who's just a big physical player out there making an impact, and then how big it is not having Tom Thibodeau and the difference between him and Mike Brown, where I think our biggest problem with this team was Tom Thibodeau, where he's just not a tactician and he's a defensive coach, but his defensive scheme is to play harder and run his players into the ground and give everyone injured throughout the playoffs. And this team was actually healthy this year. They were rested coming into the finals. They had played 4 games in 23 days, which is why Jalen Brunson was able to have the best clutch finals in NBA history as far as fourth quarter scoring and score over half their points in Game 5, where the Knicks looked tired in moments, but compared to the Spurs, they were just fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, they were prepared. They knew how to attack Wembanyama also as well, making it difficult for him. They had a good defensive game plan. Mike Brown's one of those coaches that, and as far as total NBA history, we might not think about him as much. We're going to think about like Red Auerbach. We're going to think about Phil Jackson. We'll think about, I guess you can throw Steve Kerr in there given his titles. But as far as what Mike Brown has done, he's been good with Cleveland. He was good with the Knicks, obviously winning the title there. He had some stints with the Lakers. The Kings he was successful with, which I feel like is understated there. So pretty much everywhere Mike Brown has gone, he's been successful. And now the fact that he is now an NBA champion should put him in the Hall of Fame, especially if you're going to put Amari Stoudemire in the Hall of Fame. You should put Mike Brown there. So this was kind of like the reckoning for him. He had brought in LeBron to the finals with his number 2 being Anderson Varejao. No disrespect there. And then with the Kings, bringing them out of their first playoff since, I think, 20 years prior. So he's done some good work across most of this league, and now he's an NBA champion. So credit to Mike Brown.
Yeah, assistant coach with the Warriors as well. Does
True.
this, in your mind, give him the edge over someone like a Doc Rivers? Where now you look at Doc Rivers, and Doc Rivers had Kevin Garnett, where Kevin Garnett had just a massive weight lifted off his shoulder, and that weight was carrying the entire state of Minnesota and kind of North and South Dakota as well on his back for so long. And then Ray Allen show up, Kevin Garnett, Rondo, and Kendrick Perkins, and he still only won 1 championship.
Yeah.
And they blew
also,
a 2-0 series lead to the Heat.
Yeah, and also, like, remember the Cavs series that went 7 on path to the finals? That you look at that Cavs team when it's like him, Mo Williams, Anderson Varejao, I think Leon Poe is in that one at that point. Like, some of the teams that Cavs team, with how good they were, consistently winning 60 games, and then as soon as LeBron leaves, they fall off a cliff. They blame it all on Mike Brown. They burn his jersey. Safe to say that the problem was not Mike Brown's coaching at that point. I think he coached the ass off of that Cavs teams. And then, yeah, as far as Doc Rivers, you know what Mike Brown does not have? He has not won 3 games to 1 series blown lead. Not 2, not 3. He doesn't have 4 3-1 series leads blown across 4 different franchises. That is what Mike Brown can say that he does not have. Where Doc Rivers, on the other hand, can say it for the Clippers, the Magic, and I want to say the Sixers as well. I believe he did it with the Sixers.
Yeah. No, he. Yeah. Yeah, I forget which team he did it with the Sixers. He at least blew a 3-2 lead to the Celtics because he has the most 3-2 leads blown as well. But he had that series against Miami where we had back-to-back games where Rondo dropped 40 points in Miami, and we stole the first 2 games against the Heat, and we blew 2 Rondo games, and then LeBron had his historic Game 6 game in Boston when we blew a 3-2 series lead, and then we were up 13 at the end of that game. Cedric Maxwell's getting ready to go down, present the trophy, and then Miami comes back and wins that series as well. I think if Doc Rivers, like his finals similar to this Knicks finals with Mike Brown would have been if Doc Rivers won with the Clippers, where you took a team that was just banging their head up against the wall so many times in a row, just needed the right coach to step in and do it, and then you get Doc Rivers for the Clippers, and then suddenly they get worse, where Mike Brown takes the Knicks, and then it was just the right time to do it.
Yeah, it's the right team to make that change. Plus, also, I feel like the Knicks, with Tom Thibodeau, were still right there. If I'm not mistaken, they made the Eastern Conference Finals not too long ago with Tom Thibodeau. But
Yeah,
like we had mentioned, they had just been essentially gassed by the time they finally made it there, that they couldn't make it over the hump. If they had had Mike Brown then, I think we could be talking about a second title for the Knicks with how good they had been. I think acquiring Karl Anthony Towns, he had played really well against the Cavs and the Sixers in this postseason. He didn't have a great finals, but he had a good playoffs in general for the Knicks. So I think the addition of Cat helps. I think also, had they had Mike Brown earlier in this Knicks iteration, then they probably would have made it to another finals and maybe have won a second one.
yeah, you might beat Indiana last year. I do think the difference is having Karl Anthony Towns, but yeah, I think last year you definitely probably at least push the Pacers a little bit harder. And you did get to Game 7 last year versus Indiana, but Mike Brown probably helped some of those moments tactically against the Pacers. But it'll be interesting to see what the East looks like next year. But this is the 8th unique champion in a row. And I asked Gemini to rank the last 8 NBA champions, and we'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. So this is from when the Raptors won in 2019. And it's not just that it's the 8th champion. There hasn't been a back-to-back year where at least one of the teams has been back to the finals. So it's been a unique finals every single time. And starting at number 8, it has the Golden State Warriors. Despite being the most experienced group, this version of the Warriors is often ranked lower because they weren't a full dominant force like their earlier dynasties. However, Steph Curry finally secured that elusive Finals MVP. And then the Celtics, Jason Tatum had the most turnovers in playoff history that year, and he had over 100 turnovers. It was the Ime Udoka Celtics, so I don't know. Just the Celtics weren't ready, and it was the Warriors' time to cap off that dynasty. But can you think of a team that you would put the Warriors above that won a championship?
I feel like the Lakers, you could probably put them above. Yeah, I mean, this is an older Warriors team. They did finally immortalize themselves as a dynasty, and ending that dynasty at 2022. So I understand the reasonings there, but I think I would probably put the Lakers below them.
You'd put the Lakers below them. Okay, yeah, and that's the bubble Lakers. And then at number 7, they have the Knicks.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are better than some of the other teams. Just given their core, I guess 7 or 8 players that they have. So I don't know if maybe recency bias has kicked in for me, but I feel like this Knicks team of the 8, I would put them in the top 5 of the 8 teams available. So I would put them a little higher.
Okay. Let's just go through since the Knicks just won the championship recently. But do you have the Knicks beating the Warriors?
Um, yeah, I
Okay.
would say so.
What about the Raptors with Kawhi, OG, Pascal, Marcus Gasol, Kyle Lowry, Van Vliet,
That's a tough one.
Ibaka?
Um, and they had, I mean, coaching advantage. It was Nick Nurse. I'll give them the edge against the Raptors, but that's a 7 game series.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I feel like Kawhi and Jalen Brunson, maybe not defensively, but scoring wise, that kind of balances it out. That's a tough one though. That's probably
It
7 games.
it does, but I think the Knicks beat the Spurs because outside of Wemby, they didn't have that much size, and Wemby got pushed around by Mitchell Robinson. I just think the sheer like force and athleticism of the Raptors would be too much for the Knicks to handle.
Yeah, that Raptors team had a lot of depth. Also, they went pretty
Yeah,
deep. The fact that OG Anunoby was like the sixth man on that team, essentially. You had like Kawhi, Serge Ibaka, Marcus Gasol. You had Kyle Lowry.
Siakam,
You had Siakam. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Siakam was on that team too.
Marcus
Damn.
Gasol.
You had Jeremy Lin. So there's some good players on there.
Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah, I would probably take the Raptors over them. You would take the Knicks to win that series, and then what about the Milwaukee Bucks with Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis?
I don't know. I feel like I might have to put the Bucks over the Knicks there,
Okay.
just because that's probably the best iteration of Giannis that we've seen. He was unstoppable. Wemby isn't quite the player that Giannis was then, where he doesn't have multiple tools in his shed, and we kind of saw some weaknesses with Wemby's game. I feel like with how Giannis was playing, with how Drew Holiday was playing at the time, Chris Middleton was kind of the last hoorah for him. I would probably put the Bucks over them.
Yeah, I would also put the Bucks over them as well. And then yeah, that'd be the Raptors. And then what about the Lakers in 2020 with Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Alex Caruso, Anthony Davis in his prime, and LeBron?
Yeah, LeBron's last title, Anthony Davis with how they were. Or is this also including like
Does
COVID
this have to
circumstances?
hypothetically? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Does this hypothetically have to be in the bubble?
If it's hypothetically in the bubble, then I don't know how this
Landry
Knicks team's going
Shamit's
to be.
averaging 7 threes a game. Then
Yeah, yeah, we have a huge game for Jordan Clarkson, which I think was Jordan Clarkson on that Lakers team. I think he might have been.
yeah,
Either way, honestly, that Lakers team, as funny as they are looking back, they had a lot of really great veterans that are probably in the Hall of Fame. Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, LeBron, AD, Alex Caruso playing out of his mind there. Um, so I think the Lakers beat them.
yeah. So you'd have the Lakers beating them. Okay, and then what about the Thunder last year?
I mean, shit, we almost just saw this hypothetical. Had the Spurs lost Game 7. Um, I don't. I think they could have beaten that Thunder's team with how much firepower going into that series. The Knicks, it's not just how good their team was and how much they were blowing teams out. It's also like the Knicks just felt like they were inevitable to win the finals once when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
Um, just because of the hot streak, the whole city of New York woke up because of it. Like, part of me feels like the Knicks would have beaten the Thunder there.
yeah. Everything lined up for it too this year. I think for the Knicks, where Jalen Williams is injured versus the San Antonio Spurs, so his hamstring isn't the same. So you lose him, and then you also lost another top scorer off your bench for the Spurs, where you have two 20-point scorers who are injured. So if we had the fully healthy team for the Thunder, I would still take the Thunder over this next team, where you had no Halliburton, no Giannis this year. Not taking any credit away from them, but if the Thunder were fully healthy, I do think they would have beat the Spurs. So I think last year's Thunder would beat this Knicks team.
Okay. Last team, yeah, maybe last year's team could. This year, I think Knicks probably could have won.
Yeah. So, what about the 2023 Nuggets?
So that Nuggets team: Jamal Murray, Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Christian Braun. If they can do what they did to Wemby to Jokic, then yes. But Jokic is unstoppable. Also, um, that's a tough series. I think the Nuggets would still prevail just because I feel like Jokic still is, but at that time especially, this is a guy that's won 3 MVPs at that point. I'll take Jokic there.
Yeah, I'll take the Nuggets as well. I just think Jokic that year was so good. It was the year Embiid won the MVP, but Jokic was just motivated to get out there and win the finals. And then this entire team finally came together where Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter all peaked at the same time. So I definitely think Denver would probably win that series, and then that would leave the Celtics in 2024, who finished with 64 wins, went 16-3 through the playoffs.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Celtics beat the Knicks in that finals run, if I'm not mistaken. So technically, the answer to that would be yes. If we're talking about like current Knicks, current Celtics, how many threes are this Celtics team shooting, and how many of them are they missing? Because that's kind of what caused them to blow that 3-1 lead against the Sixers. That particular Celtics team was kind of firing on all cylinders. So I would say I'd give it to the Celtics.
You give it to the Celtics.
And they had
That
Porzingis too.
Yeah, so I would have the Knicks beating the Warriors, and that's it. And then you would have them beating the. It's a toss up with the Raptors, but you'd have them beating the Warriors, beating the Thunder this year, and then beating the Lakers. So you'd have them winning 4.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4. Raptors one I can talk myself out of. Lakers one, if it's them playing a normal playoff run, then yes. If it's the bubble, that's a weird dynamic. But I think they could beat the Warriors and Lakers for sure. The Raptors I think is kind of fringy, and then the Thunder. Um, Last year's Thunder, I can talk myself into it, but I also think that's recency bias. So I'm going to say at least 3 they could beat.
What about the finals losers? 2020 Heat. You think they still beat them?
Yeah.
The Phoenix Suns in 2021.
Yes, I could. Yes, they can beat that team.
The 2022 Celtics, where Jason Tatum turned the ball over 100 times and broke an NBA record.
Yeah, probably.
I think that would beat that team. And then Miami in 2023.
Yeah,
That'd be a good series.
it'd be a good series. Yeah.
I think that goes 7. But and then how about Dallas in 2024 with Kyrie Irving and Luka versus this team? I think that would be a good series. That's
That would be a
one.
great series.
I think that's the one I can talk myself into the loser beating the Knicks, and then also the Pacers. I would say the Pacers
yeah.
and the Mavericks, and then any other loser, I think the Knicks beat. But I do think if they made it in 2024 or 2025, the Pacers beat them last year with pretty much the same roster. And then I definitely think Dallas with Kyrie and Luka would have matched up well, especially with the bigs that they had on that team.
Yeah, I definitely think the Pacers did, because frankly, the Pacers last year feel like what the Knicks are this year, where it just felt like destiny was taking over, and they were going to win no matter what. And then unfortunately, Halliburton hurts his body in Game 7, and he's out for the rest of the game. And then the Thunder win, and it's an unfortunate outcome. But had he not been injured, then we're talking about a Pacers title last year. And at that point, I think it's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting lineup of champions, though. I definitely think there's some really underrated teams here. Like, people forget how loaded the Raptors were. and then the Bucks with Giannis in 2021. And then the only team to make it to the finals twice has been the Celtics and the Heat in this parity era. So no one from the West has made it twice. And then it's just been two teams from the East with the Celtics in 2022, Heat in 2020, Heat in 2023 again, and then Celtics in 2024 when they won. But the Heat lost both times and the Celtics won once. So out of the two teams who have taken up 4 final spots, they've only won one time.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, honestly, the fact that the Heat made the finals in both of those iterations was extremely impressive. The bubble, you could call it the bubble year, but the second time that they made it, that solidified Jimmy Butler as an all-time great when he did that. Where is he ranked all-time? We don't know. Is he a Hall of Famer in my eyes? I think you could put him in there. There's other people who are in there that don't deserve it, and Jimmy Butler made it to 2 finals as an 8th seed, so I would be happy to give Jimmy Butler a spot.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns still won a finals before Jimmy Butler, though. So did Andrew Wiggins. So did Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague, yeah. Jeff Teague's in there, too. Yeah. But, yeah, I think, yeah, honestly, that the fact that the Heat even made it that far at that time, when his number 2 was the Tyler Herros, the greatest scorer of all time, Bam Adebayo in there, the Heat making it both times was impressive enough. Pushing the Lakers to 6, and then they pushed the Nuggets to 5, I believe. But that series was over. So, yeah. Impressive with the Celtics, though, for making it to 2 of them.
Do you think there's any champions that the Spurs beat?
Yeah. I think they beat the Lakers. I think they could beat that Lakers team, I would say.
They'd be like the Bucks. I don't think they beat the Bucks. The Warriors, I think the Warriors are just a tough matchup for them, where I do think Draymond would have been able to. Draymond and Wiggins, I do think, would have enough size where I think Wiggins would have a similar series that Anunoby had versus the Spurs, and the fact that they weren't able to close out the games. And that was the year where it's kind of Steph's prove-it year. If we took both those teams and matched them up, I think the Warriors would actually beat them. Like, I'm looking at this list, and I don't actually think that the Spurs beat any of the past champions from 2019 to 2026.
Yeah, because, like, the Thunder, they beat them without Jalen Williams. Celtics, maybe the Celtics had Porzingis. Porzingis was playing well for them.
Holiday
was there. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I always want to talk myself out of the Celtics just with how they play their game, because it's so 3 dominant that if the Spurs can contest every shot against them, then maybe they struggle there and maybe they take that game. But it's going to be interesting to see the future of the Spurs, how they rebound, because now that they've lost the finals, they look so much worse than when they were entering the finals. So it's hard to say. But they were one of the better defensive teams. Wemby was looking like a potential GOAT conversation now, but now we're looking at it, and I don't think he's in it. I think that conversation's over now.
It has to be, and it's not because he lost, it's because of the way he lost, where he had an opportunity to win the game in every single game, and he wasn't even the one who won it for them and hit the clutch shot in Game 3. That was De'Aaron Fox. And then De'Aaron Fox went on to have probably his worst playoff games of his career in the following 2 games, but you just have to think of it where Game 2, he literally threw it away. He missed 2 clutch free throws in Game 4 that could have helped them win the game, and he missed the last 9-10 shots. So any GOAT conversation, people are going to pull that finals up and be like, no. It's like the first time where a team led for 72% of the series and lost, especially in a 4-1 fashion. And it was also the most painful loss for your fans in NBA history. And I get you guys weren't supposed to be there, but, you guys acted like you weren't supposed to be there. So it does look like a team's like, okay, yeah, you beat the Thunder with Jalen Williams hurt, and then A.J. Mitchell was also hurt in that game. Another 20-point score for the Thunder. And the Thunder still almost won that series. They still almost pulled it out.
Yeah. And then also, like, that Timberwolves series was close and contested. That Trailblazers series, if I'm not mistaken, there was a game in there that could have gone the other way. They already stole a game against them. You had Didi Asmundra that was playing really well. So that series, in hindsight, we could probably poke holes in. But the Spurs team has a lot of questions. And I do think that they'll be back in the finals eventually, but with a totally different roster outside of Wemby.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it'll look different. And then we haven't had a team make it to back-to-back finals here, so kind of gives the indication that the Knicks probably won't be there next season. You typically look at a team like who won the finals the year previous, and you're like, oh yeah, of course the 2024 Celtics should be right back in the finals. And then you have the Knicks beat them. Jason Tatum gets injured, and then of course the Thunder are going to be back in the finals next year. Well, Jalen Williams hamstring issue. Of course the Nuggets should be right back in the finals in 2023, and then they melt down versus the Timberwolves. Timberwolves get gentlemen swept by the Mavericks. Oh, of course, the Warriors, that wasn't really, of course, they'd be in the finals next year. But the Bucks, of course, Giannis will be back in the finals. Well, no, he hasn't been healthy in the playoffs since 2022, and then 2023 to 2026, he's been either injured in the playoffs or he missed 49 games last season. Then, the Lakers, Anthony Davis and LeBron, they should be back in the finals. Nope. And then Toronto, Kawhi just dipped out. So this is a year where, the Knicks, they went out there and won their championship, but we have not had a team get back to the finals in this stretch in back-to-back seasons.
I am just interested to know of the teams that have won in the last, or even made it to the finals the last 3 years, we'll say. So Pacers, Thunder, Celtics, Mavericks, and then Nuggets, Heat, I guess, in that scenario. Any of those teams, could they make the finals next year? I think the only real answer is Pacers, Celtics, Thunder. Mavericks are too far away. Heat are too far away. And then the Nuggets, it depends on what they do this offseason, but I don't feel confident that the Nuggets will either.
No, the Nuggets seem like they're kind of going to waste the rest of Jokic's career, unfortunately, unless they make a huge blockbuster trade and trade Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray for Giannis as a sleeper team. Like, if they go out there and do that, then potentially, but I don't think Giannis would be healthy in the playoffs. And then I do think the only team probably that would make it back to the finals out of these teams would be the Thunder. I just have questions about how much the Celtics will be able to overhaul their roster to even get themselves close to where they need to be next year. I mean, Jason Tatum should be healthy next season. So if they can add a really good big man and some serviceable bigger forwards, and Hugo Gonzalez can take a step forward next season, I do think that would be the difference. So I think with the Celtics, it would be some of their younger players improving. But out of these teams, I really don't see it. Like, Halliburton's coming off an Achilles injury. Don't love it. I wouldn't bet on it. So I think we'd see a new team probably come out of the East next year again. Probably Detroit or Orlando, because Orlando is getting the Spurs assistant coach this year. And I do think Orlando was really close if Franz Wagner doesn't get hurt. And I think the Magic probably would have gotten to the conference finals and matched up pretty well versus this Knicks team, at least size-wise. They had more heart, and I think it just came down to a really unlucky injury with Wagner, where he was really the one who was giving the Pistons a lot of problems. So, honestly, I think the Magic would have to be my dark horse team coming out of the East next year, and then obviously the Pistons.
Yeah, I can see that there. Celtics have a lot to figure out. I don't trust the Sixers ever. I don't trust the Cavs ever either. The Knicks, I think, can still make it back to the finals. I'd be interested to see how their roster is constructed over the next 2 years, because I know that Jalen Brunson signed long-term, and I know that they signed, I want to say, Anunoby long-term. For the Knicks, like, if they were to, let's say that they win a second ring and Jalen Brunson's MVP a second time, where would Brunson rank as all time? Because as far as I'm concerned, with Jalen Brunson winning a championship, I think he should be elevated over the likes of Allen Iverson, a guy who I feel like has a pretty similar play style to him. He plays better defensively, is more clutch than Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is more iconic, but I think Jalen Brunson is the better overall player. And if we're talking about like all-time great guards, if he wins a second title, then he should definitely be in that conversation. I think him winning, I would put him over Iverson now, personally.
Yeah, it puts him in the same conversation as someone like Isaiah Thomas with the Pistons, where he got to the finals, led a really tough, gritty team to 2 championships. But I do think it puts him, as far as the 2020s, he's arguably one of the best players in the 2020s if he wins 2 championships. Right now, I wouldn't put him over Jason Tatum. And then you can argue between him and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP, but I definitely think when he wins 2 championships in this parity era where no one else has done that, I think it puts him right up there, especially with guards. Jalen Brunson just reminds me of Isaiah Thomas's season in 2018 where he went ballistic, but he just has kept that pace for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just been kind of Mr. Consistent. He's been Mr. Clutch for the Knicks. He's a guy that even as a guy who has historically hated New York sports teams, it's kind of a hard guy to hate. He's from New York. And in his 4 years, I mean, he's averaged 26-plus points a game as well. He's been super clutch in the postseason for them as well. So all that considered, I think he deserves to be in the all-time conversation. But he's also only played 6 years, realistically. So
yeah,
he's got some rooms to grow before we put them, in conversations like that.
I could see him going somewhere else too and winning a championship, because if the Knicks aren't able to hold this roster together, he did say that he misses Texas state taxes, especially being in New York right now.
Okay, so he's a Spur. That's what that means.
Maybe he goes to the Rockets and fixes all their problems, where all they just need is a scorer.
Yeah, could go to Miami, potentially. Or the Magic. We don't know. But doesn't like those taxes.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm the Knicks, though, I think to win next year, you have to trade Karl Anthony Towns now, because you essentially won in the finals in Game 5 in spite of Karl Anthony Towns getting into foul trouble, and he was pretty good about it through most of the playoffs. But if you can call Miami and say, hey, cap for Bam, I do it immediately.
Why would I not want to add the greatest scorer of all time?
The greatest scorer of all time. You could have Jalen Brunson, the best clutch scorer in NBA Finals history, at least last year. And then you also could have Bam Adebayo, who had the most points in NBA history outside of the game that isn't on tape.
Yeah. You have the greatest rebounder in Josh Hart as well. You have the greatest clutch basket of all time with OG Anunoby. I mean, conversations to be had there.
Yeah. So if I'm the Knicks, I do it. I trade Karl Anthony Towns. If you want to get back to the finals, you have to do something. Because the Celtics didn't do anything. The Nuggets lost pieces. The Warriors got old, and Andrew Wiggins remembered that he's Andrew Wiggins. The Bucks, Giannis just turned back into himself. The Lakers got old. They lost Dwight Howard and Rajon Rondo, which was pretty big for them. And then the Raptors lost Kawhi. And then the Thunder didn't change anything this year. They didn't get back to the finals either. So you have to change something, because all the teams, what they have in common who haven't gotten back to the finals, didn't change anything.
Yeah, they got to make a move if they're the Knicks. And they've been aggressive, so I think they will. But we'll see how this offseason plays out. We got a long offseason ahead, and so be interested to see how everything plays out. But we won't have NBA basketball for up until October, which is crazy to think about.
Free agency will be crazy, though. We're about to take 3 weeks off here after this episode, and when we come back, there's going to be some huge free agency news. Everything massive always happens around 4th of July weekend. Everyone knows where they were when Kevin Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors. Midday on 4th of July, everyone decided the NBA was over. for the next few years. And the NBA had to do a hard reset, and now we've had a different championship since Kevin Durant essentially ruined the league. So he
Thanks,
really
Kevin Durant.
reset the NBA.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin Durant. Appreciate it. Now we haven't had a repeat champion since. But, people are going to be asking, where were you when Kevin Durant signed with the Warriors? Where were you when the Brickyard gave their predictions for the AFC East for 2026? All things that people are going to be wondering where they were when it happened. So here we are, AFC East predictions. We've predicted the NFC East, the AFC, and NFC South as well. We are here this week to cover the AFC East. So as we just do an overview, you think about the AFC East. What do you think?
I think about the Jets having one of the most underrated off seasons of any NFL team, actually going out there spending money and kind of actually cooking in the draft a little bit. So I think of the Jets adding an alarming rate of talent and kind of flying under the radar doing it, just with how cartoonish of a team they were last year, where they didn't have a single interception. I think of the Bills having a new head coach and wondering if their defense is going to be the same without Sean McDermott. And then I wonder about the New England Patriots coming into the offseason with the scandal. They have a revamped wide receiver room, but they're a young team coming off a Super Bowl loss. And how is that hangover going to affect them and Drake May this year? And then Miami, I don't think of really. I just like, oh, Malik Willis just ruined his career.
Yeah. Overview for me, Patriots, they added some talent. They should be back and competitive again. Bills are always going to be competitive with Josh Allen. They went and got DJ Moore. That should be interesting. So at least offensively, they'll be exciting. And then the Jets and Dolphins. There's a clear drop after that. But the Jets quietly, they drafted the best tight end available in the draft with Kenyon Sadiq, Adonai Mitchell, and Amari Cooper Jr. So they got some weapons that they desperately needed. And then defensively, they made some moves there as well. Miami, on the other hand, has done what every other team has not done, which is just gut their roster alive. You want to talk about tanking for Arch? Then this is clearly what this Miami Dolphins doing. Malik Willis signs for 3 years. I think $70 million was the deal. Devon Achane still there, but weapons-wise, the receiver core is looking probably the weakest in the NFL. Tight ends are looking weak. Offensive line. And then their defense, which was already unimpressive, now their cornerbacks are led by Storm Duck and Marco Wilson. That's right. Their right corner's name is Storm Duck.
That is the most Miami name ever, to be honest.
Yeah, and he did the worst thing he could have possibly done. You would guess, given his name, where do you think he went to college?
Not Oregon.
That's what it should have been. It should have been Oregon, but he went to fucking Louisville. Why? I don't know.
The wrong school. It's on the wrong
Storm
side of the
Duck.
country.
Yeah, Storm Duck should be an Oregon Duck, but no. Instead, he's a fucking Louisville, whatever the fuck they are, which is a failed opportunity. But yeah, AFC East in general, I feel like it's going to be two teams that we expect to be competitive. Jets, I think they'll be a good bad team.
Yeah, I think they'll actually be competitive this year, especially they still might trade for Anthony Richardson, which I think would be the funniest thing. We have Aaron Glenn giving hype speeches to Anthony Richardson on the sideline. So I think that is an arc we could see. But I do think the Jets team is going to be primed for having an interesting year this year and potentially maybe attracting a free agent quarterback. Maybe it's someone like a Baker Mayfield, where a veteran quarterback takes a look at that team and decides, hey, maybe I can actually turn this Jets team around, especially with how much talent they added on offense and defense here. Like, they signed Minka on defense. They also signed Demario Davis and then David Amena. And then they also signed Tavondre Sweat as well. And they really didn't lose too many huge key pieces either. So
Should be. I mean, they didn't have any pieces to lose, but yeah, it should be interesting. I think their offense is going to be a lot better. Quarterback-wise, Geno Smith had a tough year in Las Vegas, but If he can turn back what he was in Seattle, then I think it'll be just fine. But 17 turnovers, just picks wise last year. He had some fumbles there as well. Not the best season with the Raiders last year. I think this Jets team is better than that Raiders team, so I think it'll be interesting with Geno. Plus, they have Bailey Zappi if worse comes to worse.
The funniest thing though, when people say like, "Oh, well, Geno just needs to turn it back to what he was in Seattle," I'm like, "Okay, yeah, please give him Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, and Kenneth Walker again, and then he'll just be fine. Like you have two number ones at wide receiver and a Super Bowl MVP on your team, and then he'll just turn back into himself."
Yeah, well, he's got Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, and Amari Cooper Jr., so he's basically got that already.
All right.
Same thing.
Well,
Same thing.
this team didn't get an interception this year, so maybe we'll call the game where we think the Jets are going to get their first interception. But coming into the year, that's a pretty good description of the Jets. And you're going to be picking the Jets and the Patriots. I'm going to be doing the Dolphins and the Bills. So let's start out with the Jets here. And they start their season in Nashville against the Titans, two young teams looking to win.
Yeah, Robert Sala's revenge game, dare I say. Cam Ward's revenge game. Everyone's revenge game against the Jets. The bald-headed offensive crew that is around Tennessee, I think they'll have some nice bright minds there, and I think the Jets are going to struggle there, so I will take the Titans beating them.
You'll take the Titans beating the Jets in week 1. All right, off to a tough start, but don't worry, it gets easier. Just kidding. The Packers come to Green Bay.
Yeah, and Packers against this Jets team, Micah Parsons. I just don't know if their offensive line can handle Micah Parsons. And then offensively, probably still going to be a pretty close game, but I will take the Packers there.
All right, don't worry, it gets easier because their next game. Oh, I mean, wait, they play the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, and I'm like, Dan Campbell, it's not really a revenge game for them, but probably a bittersweet one. And I just feel like the Lions are going to be more prepared, better coaching staff. Give me the Lions there. Tough start for the Jets.
Aaron Glenn wants to leave and go to New York. All right. And then they go to Chicago, and this is a 2-game road trip.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. So you start off with Green Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago all at once. Those are probably all losses there for the Jets. That's probably 0-4.
0-4, okay. Don't worry, though, because you actually do get an easy game this time. I'm not joking. It is the Cleveland Browns at New York to face the Jets. But
And you know what? This might be the game. This is the game that the Jets get the win. I feel like the Jets and Browns typically match up pretty well against each other. And I think the Jets now, is there the first interception here? We don't know. But maybe there is. But I know for sure that there's a win right there.
yeah. All right, so they get their first win versus the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I do think they either win or lose to Cleveland or Tennessee and go 1-1. But then they go to New England and face the Patriots.
Yeah, and like certain teams just can't beat certain teams. We talked about the Cowboys and the Cardinals, the weird paradigm there. Jets just cannot beat the Patriots to save their life. I'm going to take the Patriots to sweep them. So yeah, Patriots sweep the Jets.
So they're 1-5. And then they go back home and host the Dolphins. Did we get another win?
I think they can get a win against the Dolphins, and maybe they can get 2 wins against the Dolphins. But we won't be greedy. We'll just keep them with 1 for now. So they get a win against the Dolphins. Things are coming around.
All right. And then a potential revenge game for Geno Smith. They host the Raiders.
Revenge game. What? They try to write him off. He don't write back. Geno Smith, angry. There's nothing scarier. There's 2 things that cannot be any scarier. Geno Smith, angry, and Aaron Glenn, angry as well. And when I see those 2 angry guys on the sidelines come week 8, I'm taking the Jets.
You're taking the Jets. All right. So now they're 3-5. You know what also is going to be scary next year is if you somehow draft Ashton Jinty and you're like, ooh, it could be so good, but could it also be so mid at the same time?
The Kyle Pitts of running backs.
Yeah. Well, he's like the Najee Harris type running back where he'll get you 17 points or 14 points, but it's such a grind to get there.
Yeah.
But they beat the Raiders at home, get their third win of the year. They're 3-5, and then they go to Kansas City to face the Chiefs in another revenge game.
Revenge game, yeah. I don't think they beat the Chiefs. That is where their luck tries out. But they did win 3 of the last 4, so they'll be hot. But I just don't think they beat Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
All right. And then they go back home and host Buffalo. And, the Jets are kind of frisky against Buffalo sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? Let's look at the Bills' record against the Jets the last 8 years. Because we'll say since 2018. So since Josh Allen has been the Josh Allen that we know and love. The Bills are 13-4, so they have been pretty dominant against them. But we have seen some pretty tough losses in there. I'm going to have them splitting against the Bills, but I do think the Bills beat them this time around.
All right. So they are 3-7 after losing to the Bills, and then they have their first game that isn't at 1 o'clock, and it is on November 22nd versus the Chargers, but it's at 4:05. So this is going to be a day where we only have like 3 games, and Scott Hansen falls asleep on this one. But this is their first game that isn't at 1 o'clock until November 22nd.
I have a prediction. November 22nd, 2026, week 11 of the NFL season, the New York Jets will get their first interception. Tell me it's not more poetic for the Jets to get their first interception in almost 2 years than to get it against none other than the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, as far as the outcome, I think the Chargers still beat them. But they get to leave there with 1 interception. And an interception that they've longly waited for.
All right, and then they get to go from LA to Miami. What a 2-week stretch. Miami and LA back to back. And then
In November.
in November, and they are in Miami for that one.
In that one, I believe I had them beating Miami the first time. I'll have Miami beating them in week 12.
Oh, you have them splitting, and they're 3-9 now. They were 3-6, had some hope, and now they're back down to 3-9.
Tough shake.
But thankfully, well, not thankfully, you get to go home and face Denver.
Yeah, good luck. That's murder. Hopefully, Geno Smith is still thriving then, but we don't know. Aaron Glenn might not even be the coach at this point, for all we know.
Another 3-10, and then they go to Arizona to face the Cardinals. But honestly, I think
Cardinals team, that could be a frisky Cardinals team. I'm just looking at their schedule. The Chargers, Miami, and then Arizona, all within a month. Like this is in the peak of November and December time when weather starts to suck back east. And you're going to be able to go to LA, Miami, and Arizona. Schedule a little bit of a break there, but I'm going to take the Jets to beat the Cardinals.
all right. So that moves them to 4-10, and then they go back home and face the Patriots.
Yeah, they don't beat the Patriots. It just doesn't happen. So I will take the Patriots beating them. It just doesn't happen. We don't know. We just haven't seen it in our lifetime.
And then they host the Vikings.
That's tough. I mean, Kyler Murray could be hoisting an MVP by that point. He could be the favorite, the front runner for all we know. So yeah, he's not getting in the way of Kyler Murray.
And then they face the Bills. And this is the last week of the season. Bills could potentially be vying for the division.
And they beat the Bills in this scenario. I think they will split it with them. I think the Jets right around like 4-13, 5-12, but maybe a competitive 5-12. But I think 5-12 is just the record that they expect and should have.
All right, so the Jets go 5-12. I don't hate it. Yeah, maybe they beat the Bills earlier in the year, but I think right around 5 wins is the max that I see for this team. So I think that is fair. We did the Jets okay, and then that brings us to Miami. Miami, everyone is gone. They fired their coach, and Malik Willis signed there, and he followed Jeff Hafley. from the Green Bay Packers. This would be the biggest shock of any team if they won more than 5 games. And if there's more than 5 wins on their calendar, you're like, oh, at least they kept Tyreek Hill. No. Literally, the only person that they decided to keep was Devon Achane because they just want to make him suffer, apparently. But Malik Willis, I mean, this is a guy who played well as a backup. Maybe you thought could have a good opportunity somewhere else, and now it just seems like he's going to ruin any other chance of people viewing him as a good quarterback, where it went from, oh, he could be in the Geno Smith, Sam Darnold conversation to now he doesn't even have a chance to get his head above water because, like, Taj Washington is going to be his #1 receiver.
Yeah, looking at the receiver core, they got rid of Devon Achane. Well, they got rid of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, so the receiver core they're running out is Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, and Tutu Atwell. So they got to and then their tight end Greg Dulcich. So that'll be interesting here. But we have the Dolphins schedule up and running here, and they start off in the great city of Las Vegas to take on the Raiders in Week 1.
Yeah, and I do think the Raiders win in Week 1. Their offense starts to show up.
Yeah, first game for Francisco Mendoza. We'll see how good he'll be. But it doesn't get any easier for them because they have to go to San Francisco in Week 2.
And they lose.
And it's not looking good. Don't worry, it gets a little bit easier because the Dynasty Kansas City Chiefs come to town in Week 3.
And they lose.
It's not looking good for Miami so far. 0-3. But they go to Minnesota in Week 4.
And they lose.
And they're now 0-4. It's not looking good. Jeff Hafley has not won yet, but maybe there's some hope because in October, Week 5, they host the Bengals.
It's still October Bengals. I still think they lose.
And they're losing. 0-5. Luckily for them, in Week 6, though, they have a bit of a break. They have the bye week. Probably take the outcome there. So they have a break. Can't lose against the bye week.
I think they do.
It's possible.
They get hantavirus on the bye week. They all come back. They started a pandemic. The Dolphins did.
And now suddenly they've won. But Week 7, they go to New York to take on the lowly Jets.
And I still think the Jets beat them.
And they are now 0-6. Ouch. And it doesn't get any easier because then they go and host New England.
Yeah, I still think they lose.
And they lose again. It's a tough game, tough week. The NFL is not forgiving. 0-7. Then they have to get their kneecaps bit out in Week 9 against the Lions.
And I still think they lose.
You still think they lose? Okay, so halfway through the season, not looking good for them. They are now 0-8. But then they go to Indianapolis to take on Anthony Richardson and the Colts.
And I think they... Man. Yeah, I think they get eliminated from playoff contention after this game.
And they lose. So they are now 0-9. Tough time to be the Dolphins. Tanking for Tua has started again with tanking for Arch. But then they go to Buffalo to take on the Bills.
That's a tough one. It's a division rivalry, but I still think they lose.
You still think they lose. So they're now 0-10. It's not looking good for them. Will the light shine bright again? We shall see. They take on the Jets in Week 12.
And you had them beating the Jets in Week 12, so I will stick with that. And now they are 1-10.
1-10. Hey, you know what? I've seen worse records. But they go to Denver immediately after this gratifying win to take on the Mile High Broncos.
And their record becomes 1-1-1. So they're 1-11 after this one. So that's something.
1-11 Broncos. And their last 5 games, pretty brutal. So if they don't beat the Jets in Week 12, their next stretch of games, it goes Denver and then Chicago in Week 14.
Okay. Chicago after Denver. Yeah, I think they lose, so they're 1-12.
And then the Packers in Lambeau in December.
Miami team in Lambeau in December. I mean, it's like the NFL's trying to get them to lose every single game. It's also Jeff Halfley and Malik Willis coming back to Green Bay. You don't think the Packers are going to be a little bit fired up to give them a little extra something in that game? So now they're 1-13. Tell me something I don't know. Or yeah, 1-13.
And then they have to face the Chargers in Miami.
As much, yeah. I mean, no, they don't beat the Chargers.
They don't beat the Chargers. Not in the Jim Harbaugh era. And then they face Buffalo in week 17. At this point, they are just absolutely, 1-15 at this point.
Yep. Nope. They don't beat Buffalo.
Sorry, Buffalo. Sorry, Miami. Tough time for you. You go home packing. And then week 18, they're probably taking on the. They'll be taking on the Patriots in the flex, and you're probably going to see a Tommy DeVito sighting at that point, or whoever is the backup for the Patriots. But week 18 against the Patriots.
Yeah, and I think they lose and they go 1-16.
1-16. Malik Willis, you hate to see it.
It's crazy that the Bills and the Patriots play the Jets and the Dolphins in the last week of the year. Like if the Bills and the Patriots are like going to be tied maybe for like a division record and they're split with each other in the regular season, it could come down to just don't lose to the Jets or the Dolphins, and who do you think is going to have the bigger performance? And then you had the Jets I believe beating the Bills in the last week of the season, and then the Patriots beating the Dolphins now. So it's like it's going to come down to don't lose to one of these awful teams in your division, and if you do, it's
You're
going to
out.
be pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. So here we
Do
are.
you
Yeah.
disagree though? Like you had them beating the Jets, and I pulled that from your record. Honestly, I think they do go 0-17, but like, do you see any wins on this Dolphins record? Like, I have them going 1-16. I think that's a fair record because it's honestly hard to lose every game, but
I would say the winnable games are the Raiders in week 1, the 2 games against the Jets. That's it. That's all they got. Because even like you want to bully the Colts, like the Colts were still, at 1.7-2 last year. Then they're facing the Lions, the Packers. They're facing the Chiefs, the Niners, the Bengals, the Vikings, the Bears. Like brutal gauntlet for a team that wasn't that good last year. They're getting no favors at this point, and they're facing the NFC North, which I know everyone else is, but Patriots and Bills can handle it a little better than the Jets and Dolphins can.
yeah. I mean, the Patriots and Bills will probably go 2-2 versus the North.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. Maybe one of them goes 1-4, and that's the difference. But still, it's a brutal gauntlet for the Dolphins. 1-16. You heard it here first. Jets are 5-12 though. Some hope there for everyone in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And then we
don't care.
have the reigning division champion New England Patriots. They bought a wide receiver room this offseason, trade a first round pick for AJ Brown, went out there and signed Romeo Dobbs to a 4-year deal. They also add Kevin Byard, and they sign Elijah Vera Tucker from the Jets, and then they lose Stephon Diggs, Jelani and then Garrett Bradbury was traded to the Vikings. But overall, thoughts on the Patriots offseason? Did they overachieve, or did they kind of just do exactly what you expected from them this offseason?
Well, I think their receiver core got much better. You get AJ Brown and Romeo Dobbs, so now this receiver core actually looks pretty good, and one of the top units in the AFC at this point. Their defense was already really good. Now you need to sign Christian Gonzalez long term, but this Patriots team, I don't know if they're going to have the same record as last year, but I think they're going to be a better team with either a same or maybe marginally worse record.
Yeah, it does. The thing that worries me about the Patriots is going to be just the health of AJ Brown. How healthy is he going to be? Because he's starting to get a little bit older. Had some kind of nagging things with the Eagles here and there, and then also the shoulder of Drake May. Seemed like Drake May did get a little bit injured in the playoffs, and he wasn't quite the same at the end of the year. So, kind of keeping an eye on how durable Drake May is going to be, because he did show some signs of a little bit of wear and tear. He did play through it, but definitely was a rough Super Bowl for him here. So, for the Patriots, they are going to be starting out on Wednesday versus Seattle in Seattle.
I feel like these Super Bowl rematches, historically, the loser is who wins it the following year. So I will take the Patriots to get revenge against the Seahawks on Wednesday the 9th.
All right. And then after they beat Seattle, they go back home to Gillette and face Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers, who is the reason why they didn't have the number 1 seed last year.
That's right. They did lose to the Steelers last year. I will say the Patriots and Steelers rivalry, Patriots are heavily favored there. I'm going to still take the Patriots to beat the Steelers.
All right. Starting out hot 2-0 here, and then they have to go to the vaunted Trevor Banks Stadium at 1 o'clock the next week.
All right, we'll see how many people are actually in attendance there. I will take the Patriots to beat the Jags in the rematch of the 2017 AFC title game.
All right. And then they go to Buffalo in Buffalo's new dome to face the Bills.
Yes, and we do love Dome. So I will take Buffalo. They'll probably split most likely against Buffalo, but I will take Buffalo beating them in week 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Then they go back home and face the Raiders.
I'm scared there because the Raiders are a weird team. I saw them lose to them in the past. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to have them beating the Raiders, but watch out if this is a close game. Patriots and Raiders are weird matchups. I think about the Tuck rule. I think about a couple of years ago where Mac Jones literally lost his job after that game. Remember when, I want to say it was a former Patriot stomped him into the ground basically as they had the walk-off touchdown.
Yeah.
Some bad juju there. I still think the Patriots win this game, but
last year they lost to the Raiders, and that was also the difference between the Broncos and Patriots record.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing there. I think the Patriots still win though.
Okay, so that would bring them to 4-1 here. Yeah, if they lose this game, it's definitely a trend starting, similar to Arizona with Dallas. And then they host the Jets the following week in a 2-game homestand.
I will take the Jets. I will take the Patriots to beat the Jets. The Jets don't beat the Patriots. That's just not what happens.
All right, they're 5-1 now, and they go to Chicago. I believe this is on Monday night. This is Thursday night football. Yeah, this is Thursday night football. Drake May, Caleb Williams battle for best quarterback in that draft. See if Jaden Daniels has something to say this year, but spicy matchup on Thursday.
Great matchup. A matchup I'm really torn on, but just given my excitement for what will soon be the Indiana Bears, I'm going to take Chicago.
I think that's fair. I lean Chicago as well, probably just because they're at home. And then we have the Patriots get a bye, and they host the Dolphins the next week.
Yeah, and the Dolphins, they might not get any wins this year, so Patriots definitely taking advantage there.
All right, and then they go back home and host the Packers.
I think the next couple of games, you mentioned the division. I think they'll split with the NFC South or NFC North, I mean. But I do think they beat the Packers in week 9.
All right, then they're 7-2 and go to Detroit, so they have back-to-back matchups against the NFC North team.
And this might be an international game. I think isn't there a game against the Lions in Germany?
Yeah, it's
I think
8:30 a.m. So it's probably Germany.
Okay, in the Germany game, I just feel like the Lions. Something about Lions in Germany just tells me that the Lions are going to come out roaring. So I will take the Lions to beat them. It's international. I think that's fair.
All right. And then they go to LA to face the Chargers after a bye.
Yeah, after a bye against the Chargers, we talk about the Steelers and Patriots. How the Patriots have a heated rivalry there. Chargers just don't beat the Patriots, so I'm going to take the Patriots there.
And then they host Buffalo. Do you think they split with Buffalo, or does Buffalo sweep them this year?
I think they get revenge against Buffalo. Both teams are fairly evenly matched. I think they're going to end up splitting. And
Okay.
whether it's week 4 or week 13, I think one of those games they'll split.
And this is also Thursday night. Or nope, this one is Tony Romo calling it.
Oh, so yes.
And then and then Thursday night we have the Vikings and Patriots. So I think that'll be a fun matchup. Whoa, 2 Patriots versus a AFC North team on Thursday night.
Yeah, and I think they beat Minnesota. Yeah, it's in December. I'm going to take them beating Minnesota.
Okay. It's a tough matchup. And
It is
then
tough. That's a tough one for me to pick, but I'm currently leading Patriots. But that's a tough game to pick.
then their last 4 games, you could say they have 2 tough games left. After they host Minnesota on Thursday Night Football, they get a mini bye and then go to Kansas City. And this is a night game, Sunday night.
I do think the Chiefs get the better of them. Honestly, that Minnesota game's tough because they have a short break before then. So that's a game they could lose, but I'll take the Chiefs beating them on primetime.
Yeah, I think it's fair that they split one of those and lose one of those games to either Minnesota or Kansas City. And then they go to New York to face the Jets.
It's inevitable.
All right, so they're 11-4 now. Then they host Denver in a TBD game in January.
And I think they beat the Broncos here. But it's a tough one. But I would
shut
take them
everybody up about Denver last year.
Yeah, hopefully Jared Stidham starting.
And then they end the year with Miami. I had Miami losing to them, so they would finish at 13-4. So 1 game worse than last year. So they're a worse team, but a better team this year. Tough division too with the North. You had them splitting, I believe. You had them losing to the Bears and the Lions and splitting with the Packers. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I think this is fair. Honestly, the Minnesota game kind of scares me just because they have a short timeline before they play on Thursday.
Yeah.
And they play late on. They play a 4:00 game, so they really have a little under 24 hours, or I guess 4 days to get that game completed. But
yeah, I could see the
can be tough.
Patriots losing to the Bears and the Lions, and then the Bills losing to the Vikings and Packers.
Yeah, I think that 12-5, 13-4 is my estimate for the Patriots, but I don't think they're going to have the same record as last year. I think last year they definitely had a break with the schedule.
And I could see a Jets upset in there too, especially at the end of the year. Maybe someone's banged up.
Yeah, but 12-5, 13-4 is what I expect. Then lastly, the Bills. When you think of Josh Allen's Buffalo Bills, Joe Brady as head coach, what do you think of the Bills?
I think this team is going to be underrated this year, especially. I like the addition of DJ Moore a lot, especially the fact that DJ Moore is going to be in a dome. If Josh Allen can take someone like Brandon Cooks out of the trash and make it work like he did with the Buffalo Bills offense last season, I think the Bills are going to have another great year. I do think we see a regression from their defense now, though, especially with Joe Brady taking over as head coach, being an offensive guy. And then I also do think Dalvin Cook is going to take a little bit of a step back, but I think the receivers are going to be better, and Josh Allen is going to have better offensive numbers with them being in a dome. But I do think the Bills as a team are going to lose a little bit of their aura because they're not going to have those iconic snowy cold games anymore. So typically when you have a dome environment, that's an invitation for an opposing team to get into a shootout with you. And I think we're going to have a more potent Bills offense this year, but I think they're going to be winning by Josh Allen putting up numbers this year, and it's going to be on him. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Josh Allen win another MVP this year, just with how much he's going to have to score and them being in a dome.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it's going to be a tough start to their season for their offense as they go to Houston in week 1.
Yeah, that has been Josh Allen's house of horrors throughout his entire career. And I think when we did pick the Texans schedule, we had the Texans winning that game, so I will stick with that.
All right, so they start off 0-1, but then Thursday Night Football week 2, they host Detroit.
They host Detroit, and I think Detroit wins that game. It's in a dome. Buffalo's opening day. The speech is there for Dan Campbell. Detroit has revamped their offensive line. I don't think the Bills' defense is going to be as potent this year, so I think Detroit is going to be able to put up points and win that one.
Okay, so they start off 0-2, but rest assured, week 3, they host the Chargers.
Yeah, and I think they beat the Chargers, kind of get back into the saddle. This is going to be a new head coach for Josh Allen. Defense is trying to pick it up with the new coordinator here, so I do think you might see some bumps out of the gate.
All right, and then I have them splitting with the Patriots, so whether you have them week 4 or 13, it doesn't matter, but week 4 against the Patriots, and this is at home.
Yeah, so I do think they beat the Patriots at home. So I'll just stick with what you had, and then they go 2-2.
All right. And then week 5, they go Monday Night Football against Sean McVay and the Rams.
And Sean McVay and the Rams. Yeah, I think this is a Josh Allen game. I think the Rams play really well on Monday Night Football, but I think Josh Allen's going to put up a ton of points. But my gut feeling is that the Rams win this game. I'm trying to be objective. What do you think with this game? Like, I immediately think the Rams are going to win this one, but I think Josh Allen should put up big numbers in this one.
Yeah, I do see big numbers. It's hard for me because the Bills are a hard team to bet because I see how tough their schedule can be, but they've had the toughest schedule for like the last 4 years, and they still end up being 12-5. Do I think they can lose against the Rams? Sure, but they have some tough ones in there as well for the rest of the schedule, so I can definitely see them beating the Rams too.
Yeah, it's a dome game. So I think the Rams, too, have underperformed on national TV sometimes as well.
And it's week 5. They usually struggle out of the gate, or at least aren't the same Rams team.
Yeah, so I think that's fair.
But week 6, they don't go too far. They just go about 4 hours west or east, I should say. They go to Vegas for week 6.
Yeah, and I think they beat Vegas.
Then they get a little bye in week 7, take a rest, sleep it up, hang with your girlfriend, your wife. And then week 8, it is a battle of Lamar versus Josh Allen. Not on primetime, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, and Josh Allen has kind of cooked Lamar in their rivalry here, specifically last year and in the playoffs. So give me the Bills in this one.
Don't look now, but the Bills have won 5 straight. Media's buzzing. Super Bowl for the Bills? We shall see.
Dan
Week
Orlovsky's
9.
getting paid.
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky. We'll see if he votes his buddy for MVP again. We shall see. And then week 9 in Minnesota. Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and I think Kyler pulls another magical game like he did last time versus Buffalo. It was one of the best matchups we had when it was Cardinals versus Bills, and then we had the Kirk Cousins game. So I do think the Vikings beat the Bills in that game.
All right. So they are now 5-3. And then the Jets come to town in week 10. Or they go 2 minutes. Don't matter. Don't matter where they are.
Don't matter.
They're beating the
Josh
Jets.
Allen got this.
And they have another really tough game, week 11 against the Dolphins.
Yep. They benched Josh Allen for Trubisky in this one. No, Trubisky's a Titan now, actually, right?
I think so. And then Thanksgiving game. This is hoisting the Chiefs.
And Josh
Regular
Allen
season.
has cooked the Chiefs in the regular season. It's the problem is he can't beat them in the playoffs. So yeah, I think the Bills win.
And they beat the Chiefs, continuing that. And then they face the Patriots week 13.
And I have the Patriots splitting with them, so the Patriots would win that one, and now they're 8-4.
All right. And then they go to Green Bay Sunday Night Football week 14.
That's a tough one, but I do think Buffalo wins.
All right. They got the win there. And then they hoist the Bears on a Saturday game in December.
Yeah, I will take. They host the Bears.
Yeah, they host the Bears on Saturday the 19th.
I'll go with Buffalo that one. I think they'll lose to the Lions and Vikings, and then the Bears will beat the Patriots and Bills. So I will take Buffalo to beat the Bears.
And then Christmas game. You got a lot of primetime games. This is their third primetime game in a row, and it's Christmas Day against the Broncos.
Against the Broncos. I think they get revenge versus the Broncos.
I feel like these rematches always end up in that sort of thing, so I wouldn't be surprised. And then Week 17 against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think they win against Miami.
All right, so they are now 12-4. Patriots are also 12-4. Week 18 flex game against the Jets.
I am going to. Can I just override the last pick with the Jets, or do you still think that the Jets win that game?
I mean, I think the Jets win 5 games, but we can beat them, have them beating the Raiders and the Bills beating them there, so I don't care.
So do you think the Bills and Patriots both being 13-4 and splitting with each other
That could be fun.
is
Yeah,
as good
I
as it
see it.
gets?
Yeah. And then it comes down to tiebreaker at that point. And I think it's strength of schedule, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it conference record?
So it goes to divisional record and then common opponents after that.
Okay. Which by then, the Bills have beaten they've lost to the Texans. They've beaten the Chargers. Split with the Patriots, so they're 3-2. Beat the. So I think that Bills would have a better. I don't know what the Patriots record ended up being, but Bills lost 1, 2. Bills only lost 2 conference games in this one.
Yeah. Honestly,
Just
their
Patriots
schedule
and Texans.
does seem harder than the Patriots. I think, but I do think, like, again, they have been overlooked in the past, but I think they'll be between 11.
11-14 is what we're thinking. Okay. So let me pull up our sports book now. And we're not gambling men. We don't suggest that you do the same. Gambling's stupid and evil. However, we like to compare our wins compared to the spread, and didn't look at these prior. So now that we have everybody up, let's do a recap as far as how this breaks down, and then we'll compare it to Vegas's odds.
Yeah, so we have the Patriots at 13-4. We have the Bills at 13-4. The Jets at 5.
All right. So we had the Jets at 5-12. Guess what the over/under is for the Jets?
4.5.
5.5. We nailed it. We got the Jets down to the half point. We are a little bit bearish on the Jets more than Vegas, but not by much. Half a point. They're begging us to take the over, and we just won't do it. The lowest over-under not named the Cardinals is the Dolphins, and they are at 4.5. It's the Dolphins. You win $100 if you bet the over in this game. It's Dolphins at 4.5. All right. And then Bills over-under is 10.5, which is one of the higher ones. Also, I think you're frozen. There we go. Bills at 10.5. And then Patriots are sitting high at 10.5 as well.
10.5 seems low for both of them. Like, they're going up against the North. The Bills have a tough game against the Rams because I think the Rams are their random game that they got. And then Seattle is the random game that the Patriots got. So I could also see both of them losing that game and maybe struggling against the AFC North. But I definitely think 10.5 for both teams is a little bit low. It's like they don't want to pick between them.
You can also say for context, the highest wins over-under for this year is 11.5 for the Rams. So they only have the Rams at 11.5. So Vegas is usually pretty conservative with that one, I feel.
Yeah. They don't want to make the under too easy, I guess. Yeah, so they're like basically right up there. But they have the Patriots and the Bills tied.
Yeah, they're both at 10.5. Ironically enough, for fewest wins, which you had the Dolphins at 1-16, the Cardinals had more wins than them, I believe, in our rankings. Dolphins having the fewest wins in the NFL is at plus 350. So that's 100 to win, I believe, 450. So make some cash there if you believe the Dolphins are going to be just as bad. Jets are at plus 8.5, or plus 850, I mean. And if you're really a gambling man, if you want to bet the Dolphins to have 17 regular wins, then you can make a fucking field day if you're right.
Oh, really? No shit.
Yeah, hot take. When you bet the really bad team to be really good, make a lot of money. The funny part is it doesn't let you go any higher than over 6.5 for the Dolphins. They're like, no, that's okay. You're crazy. Keep your money.
Is that the lowest win total? Is for the Dolphins at 4.5? That's as low as they're willing to go for like over under.
For the Dolphins, it only lets you go from as low as 2.5 to 6.5.
Okay.
And if you say you're under 2.5, it's plus 330. 100 win, 430.
So the ceiling is 11 wins for Vegas, and the bottom is 4.5 for losses.
Yeah, it only lets you go to 11.5 for the Rams. It lets you peak at 13.5, but they'll give you that'd be kind of a bold bet to say they win 14 games, even if they are going to be really good.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I think this will be a tough division, though. Do you see anyone out of this division getting to a Super Bowl, or do you think it's someone else's turn?
I'm really bullish on the Chiefs in the AFC. I feel like the Chiefs will still be back. For these two teams, though, I do think we could see an AFC title game between Patriots and Bills. Every year, it's always, can the Bills make it? Maybe it's their year. Every year, people get suckered into it. Patriots, I do think, are a more complete team. They have a better defense. They have a better coach. They have weapons now, and I think their weapons are better than Buffalo. So right now, I think the Patriots have the best bet in this division to make it back to the Super Bowl. But the question is Drake May.
Do you agree with Brandon Ayuk's assessment of C.J. Stroud, where he said he's stupid because he's dumb?
Yes, I would agree. Yes, he is stupid because he's dumb. Or my turning point to that is that he's dumb because he's stupid. But that's just me.
Yeah.
It's one or the other, though.
Yeah, I don't... I don't really see Cincinnati doing it. I don't really see Baltimore doing it. Pittsburgh is not going to do it with Mike McCarthy, even though that would be the funniest scenario. I think the funniest team to make the Super Bowl would definitely be the Steelers, but that's not going to happen. Um, yeah, I could see the Broncos doing it with Jalen Waddle. They just have like an overwhelming amount of firepower. I mean, Orange is kind of in style. The Knicks just won
Yeah. Orange is the new black.
the Orange Wave.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the rest of the AFC, I feel like it's Kansas City, Denver. I don't trust the Ravens either. And that's really it. I don't, it's really just between them, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. It's really just the AFC West and the AFC East.
Yeah, even the Chiefs, though, I'm like, is their wide receiver core going to be in jail or is it going to be on the field?
But boy, if it's not in jail, that's a pretty good receiver core.
I know, but they still didn't address their issues at tight end. They didn't address their issue at number 3 wide receiver, number 2, or number 4. So I
Tyreek Hill's
think
still
like
there.
Kenneth Walker helps, but how much?
Yeah. I still think that they're going to sign Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's going to be picked up eventually, and I feel like the Chiefs are going to do it.
Yeah, it would make sense that that's just the team he's holding out to sign with.
Yeah. Because I feel like fit-wise it makes sense, especially with where they are now. And his move out of Kansas City did not bode to do well for his career. So, had a couple of good seasons in Miami, but I feel like now you can get him for cheap, and it's going to bolster your receiver core.
Yeah, honestly, bring AB back. If Odell is signing contracts with the Giants, I would bet anyone that Antonio Brown, if he played for the Chiefs next year, would do double of whatever OBJ does with the Giants.
I would bet that.
It would just be how many
But
games does he play?
before he strips naked, essentially, yeah, that's the gamble. But other than him stripping naked, I think he would do just fine. But AFC East we covered. We covered the NBA Finals. Knicks win. Congratulations. AFC East has been covered. Now, as far as what we've been watching, last week I watched Obsession. You were watching The Wire. But as far as lately, what have you been watching?
Yeah, so your girlfriend got the Disney Hulu Max bundle ad free, and it was cheaper than paying for Hulu and Max on its own for them without ads. So got back onto Disney Plus and watched the new Pixar movie Hoppers that came out earlier this year.
Oh, okay.
This movie looked like a funny concept. Essentially, you have this tortured, kind of angsty teen that bonded with their grandma who dies. Spoiler alert, because we need an emotional moment over having anger issues when they're younger, loves animals, and then develops this affinity for a pond. Evil mayor is coming in. He wants to build a highway over the pond to save time and traffic, and she gets into this technology where she essentially can avatar herself into a animal. So she becomes a robotic beaver and is able to talk to and understand the animals. So it's kind of Pixar's version of Over the Hedge, except it's unhinged in some of the best ways possible. I can't remember laughing out loud at a kids movie this much in a long time, and it's just because they go for it. Does everything hit? No, but this movie kind of made me feel like, okay, Pixar's got a little bit of their mojo back. And the funniest thing is they kill a lot of animals in this. There's a scene where they have like kings for each of the type of animals, like the beaver king for the mammals. They have the insect king, and she just claps a butterfly and just like kills one of the like royal members of the animal kingdom. And then you have a bear who tries to eat a beaver that she's trying to talk to, and she saves the beaver. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, in the animal kingdom, if they get you, it's just fair game. And then the bear goes on, just like nabs the fish. And there's like a lot of dark humor in this. And they really went for him. Like, for a kid's movie, this is pretty edgy.
I rock with it. I was wanting to see this when it came out. Um, the lizard was kind of like the main marketing tool there with that meme that kept going around. But what did you think about the lizard and then just like the movie in general? I would say Pixar. I feel like of the Disney ecosystem, I feel like Pixar is the most consistent historically. I feel like their track record's pretty good as far as movies. Would you suggest this to somebody?
Oh yeah, definitely. I wouldn't, it's not going to be the best Pixar movie, but it's definitely up there. It's kind of Pixar's version of a DreamWorks movie, where it feels similar to a movie like Over the Hedge. Has that type of vibe, more of an open season vibe. But the animation in this movie looks really good. They have some kind of, for kids, probably some scary scenes in this movie, and they deal with a lot of dark themes, like just straight up killing some of the animals and characters in this movie. And there's some good emotional moments that catch you off guard as well in this movie. So yeah, I really think this movie is a good time, and it isn't as much of a drag, where I feel Pixar was going through a phase where it just felt like they were trying too hard. It was getting a little bit too art housey, where they just
Yeah.
needed to go fully unhinged and then just do something where it's a straight up comedy, where you have the emotional moments, you have good themes, but it just felt like they were going for a slapstick comedy with this one.
I like it. Yeah, it's got good reviews. I wanted to see it when it came out. Disney Plus has a lot of good stuff on there too. Um, but yeah, Hoppers is a success. I'll have to check it out. I know it's been on my list for a while, so I like the concept behind it too.
They also
As
tie
far,
into Up at the end of this movie too. So
hmm,
the Avatar lady at the end of the movie, she's in a university and they shut her down. And they're like, oh, what are you gonna do next? And she's, oh, I'm working on this collar for dogs. And so her next thing
oh,
she invents is, it ties that movie into the same universe as Up, where people have the theory that all the Pixar movies are actually in the same universe.
which I believe. Yeah, that's cool. So they tie it back to Up at the end of it. I like that. Now, as far as what I've been watching, I watched my first Western in a long time. I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with
Mm.
Clint Eastwood. You got essentially it follows like three different bandits. One of them is the good, which is Clint Eastwood. The bad, which is Angel Eyes in this movie, and then the ugly, which is this guy Tuco, who is an outlaw who has a bounty against him. And it essentially just shows all three of them kind of at different plot points. Tuco, which is the ugly, and then Joe, which is the good, Clint Eastwood. They have this scheme where he essentially turns them into the local town, would shoot them at the last minute as he's getting hanged, and then just go on to the next town. But ultimately, the main point is that all of them are trying to find the tomb of this unknown soldier that has $200,000 in gold there. There he is right there. And it's probably the most iconic Western movie, especially in the Clint Eastwood era. There's the ugly right there, pointing the gun at the good. Um, but I feel like when you think about like the most, not stereotypical, but the most iconic Western, this is kind of what comes to mind. And movies that inspire the likes of like The Hateful Eight and whatnot. You have those stare down scenes as well. Um, but really good. Definitely a slow burn. Not a movie that I would suggest watching if you're not into it, but it's like a classic spaghetti western. Has a great ending to it as well. The way it all culminates into this giant shoot off with a bunch of intensity, and then just the way it concludes. But really good. Makes me kind of want to explore more of the westerns. But my main takeaway of it all is like you talked about when I first saw Rambo, how it made me feel about Sylvester Stallone. When I watched Major Leagues, it made me appreciate Charlie Sheen more. watching this, I'm like, oh, Clint Eastwood's that guy. Because I know him as like a director, and I know him from like him as an old man. I don't know him from young Clint Eastwood. I'm like, okay, this is why Clint Eastwood's an icon. It's because he's made movies like this, where he's just this sick Western, spaghetti Western type of guy. So maybe you like Clint Eastwood even more.
And this movie came out 60 years ago.
Yeah. And the fact that also made me realize how fucking old Clint Eastwood is. This movie came out and he was like in his 30s then, and he's 96 now. He's an old motherfucker. But classic. Definitely, if you're into westerns, I would just checking this one out. Because I think this is a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely need to check that out. I need to watch more of the old Clint Eastwood and get into the John Wayne genre of westerns because I pretty much watch all the modern ones and I watch a lot of the western shows, but not as many of the movies. Where like watched The Lone Ranger, Roy Rogers, Bonanza, um, all of those shows, and then all the new Western movies. But definitely need to check that one out. It sounds really interesting, and I've been surprised on some of the finishes on some of these older movies. Jaws is one of them that just looks really good on 4K streaming. Were you surprised at any of the graphics and any of the action in this?
I was surprised because I initially was watching it because I wanted to see a movie that was shot in Arizona. Because I got news about my move. So I'm like, oh, let me watch a movie from Arizona as I eventually will drive through Monument Valley. This is not shot in Arizona, but it also just got me interested in watching these westerns. And some of the shots that they have of the desert is just gorgeous, especially for a movie like you mentioned that was shot 60 years ago. Um, they have these beautiful landscapes. You can kind of see kind of the desert airy ways. And for some reason, I feel like with movies shot that old, you can almost see the heat waves within the shot itself. You can almost see like the way that the desert heat just kind of flows through. So kind of interesting, but great cinematography. There's not a lot of dialogue in the movie for the most part. It's definitely like building intensity. They kind of talk with their eyes in this movie, which honestly kind of makes it a better build up. But I definitely recommend it, and it makes me want to check out more spaghetti westerns also.
Yeah, it's interesting that this was filmed in Spain and Italy primarily.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's mainly shot in Spain, but you look at some of the landscapes. There are some shots where I'm like, this looks like we're in Arizona. This looks like we're in Nevada or New Mexico, but no, these are all just all shot in Spain and some of the desert climates there. So, but it is a trilogy, fistful of dollars, good, the bad, and the ugly, and then for a few more dollars. So this is, I'm not really sure how the story continues from there, but it is a trilogy, which is interesting to know.
Is this the first one in that trilogy?
It's the middle one. First one is fistful of dollars.
Okay. You know, definitely have to check this out. What did you watch this on? Tell me you're on like Tubi or something.
I was on Roku TV,
You're on Roku TV, no.
which is basically the same thing. But yeah, you can get it on Tubi, I think.
So you watched a 3-hour movie with ads?
I did. It actually made it better because I had taken some gummies, and I was feeling it. So every break, I would just like stock up on snacks and be prepared. But it is a long movie. I watched this in two stints. It's like 3 hours long. I watched the first 2 hours. Then I was like, all right, I'm falling asleep. I got to watch this later. So I watched this the next day. That made it better. But the first movie in this iteration is based on Yojimbo, which is a Japanese film from Kurosawa. So kind of interesting. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
What do you what do you think of the whole disclosure day stuff going on with them like Spielberg releasing a movie called Disclosure Day? We had the weird picture with Trump where it looked like he was with two people from Star Trek with the aliens, and it became a Skyrim meme pretty quickly. And then you also have Steven Spielberg doing his movie It's like it just feels a little too on the nose with everything, where it almost ruins the movie Disclosure Day for me, where I'm just taking a look at it, where it just seems like it's government propaganda. Like part of the government has a budget where they fund movies in Hollywood and they can pitch ideas and scripts to people. And the fact that, oh yeah, we're gonna release the Alien Files today, this weird picture with Trump and two tall white aliens, or I forget which alien race they are, and then the movie on top of it, it just seems a little bit ridiculous. It just makes me not want to watch the movie.
Yeah. Is it a sequel to a movie, or is it like it felt like it was a sequel to what is it, Judgment Day? Maybe it was, but yeah, I haven't heard much about it. I feel like this movie doesn't really have as much buzz around it as I would have thought for a Steven Spielberg movie, and it looks like it might hasn't received too great of reception either. But as far as like all of that, it has John Williams coming back, which is cool. I just personally, yeah, it is weird. For someone like Steven Spielberg, I feel like when he releases a movie, it's kind of a big deal. But I feel like there hasn't been much noise at all about it.
Yeah, the audience reviews, it's at a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not great. That's just okay. And then even the critic score is at 81%. So it just seems very forgettable.
Yeah. And
It's
it's a
two
lot of like,
hours and 25 minutes, too. Just
yeah.
seems like a slog.
Well, a Reddit post says it's one of the worst. Um, yeah, 6.8 on IMDb. It's got an okay cast. It's all cast of people who I don't really care too much for. It's like Emily Blunt, Colin Firth. He's okay. Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell can be okay. But otherwise, the rest of the cast, kind of a forgettable cast, or cast of people who I don't really care to see too much. John Williams directing at school, or doing the music for it is cool, but kind of forgettable for me. Not a movie that I'm dying to see.
Yeah. But we will have Minions and Monsters this year, so we can all wear suits again. And
Yes, and I'll be watching that closely. But we'll have a bit of a hiatus. You'll be in Idaho, Montana, and a few other places. I will be back east, and then I'll also be in Vegas at one point as well. So have a bit of a hiatus, but we'll be back for the week of the 13th to discuss everything that we've missed up to that point, which will be all the NBA news as well as probably some NFL news as well. But we'll be back in just a few weeks.
yeah, probably just be an NBA free agency episode where we just go through and read everything that happened, and then we can just go through and go through every single signing for each team, and that'll probably be the episode with when we come back. Definitely debrief some Fourth of July festivities, but had a really good NBA playoff run here, really good NFL season, and it's kind of the dead zone of sports right now, where the only thing going on is going to be soccer, and I just can't care too much about soccer. I did see a lot of Europeans though are going viral for talking about how cool the U.S. stadiums are. People are like, I can't see a stadium here that has been recycled or repeated in any of the games so far, and they're all in awe. Like, what do you use all these massive stadiums for? The sport called the NFL. I don't know. It's pretty big
Yeah,
in
yeah.
America.
I've seen people super excited about somebody had went to Waffle House and they're like, "Oh, I wish I had Waffle House in Europe because it's so good." And I'm like, "Look, no disrespect to Waffle House. Waffle House is great. However, if you're getting excited about Waffle House, let me tell you about some other places. It's people getting excited about like their first Taco Bell experience, their first like essentially American food in general. They went to like a Cracker Barrel and they're astonished by what they're seeing. I'm like, boy, you guys are in for a treat. American food, yes, we're fat. Yes, we can be a little rambunctious, but boy, do we got the food down.
Yeah, the burgers. Some girl from like Sweden hadn't had ranch before. So now she's
Oh,
taking ranch back to Sweden. Imagine living your entire life without ranch. Like, oh,
we are spoiled. We don't live in the greatest, universe nowadays, and I know there's a lot of things we can criticize about the modern America, but we still have ranch, we still have burgers, we still have Waffle House, and until those are gone, this is still a pretty damn good country.
The homeless have iPhones. It's like, all right, enough said.
Exactly. But we'll be back in just a few weeks. Until then,